The rumor started quietly, almost too quietly for anyone to notice, but it didn't take long before it was everywhere: a headline, a whisper, a flood of hashtags claiming that Benny Blanco, the man Selena Gomez had called the love of her life, had been unfaithful. The name Theresa Marie appeared out of nowhere, attached to blurry pictures and screenshots that people swore were proof of something dark happening behind closed doors. At first it felt ridiculous, just another online exaggeration, but the speed at which it spread made it impossible to ignore. The internet has a way of taking a single image and turning it into 1,000 different stories. And that's exactly what happened here. Some people claimed Theresa was seen sitting close to Benny at a party. Others insisted she had been traveling with him secretly. And then someone found a post she made months ago that looked suspiciously like it was taken in the same studio where Benny had recently worked. It was all speculation, but the internet doesn't wait for evidence. It feeds on emotion. Within hours, people were calling Benny a cheater, painting Selena as the broken-hearted victim once again. And yet, for those who had followed her closely, something about this story didn't feel right. Benny and Selena had been so open, so real with their affection, so genuine in their connection, that it was hard to believe he would risk all of that for something so senseless. Still, the images looked convincing enough to make people doubt, and once doubt begins, it spreads faster than truth ever can. Theories began to multiply. There were TikToks analyzing Benny's body language, threads dissecting the supposed timeline of his interactions with Theresa, and entire YouTube videos narrating the downfall of their love as if it were a confirmed tragedy. But deep down, there was a hesitation, even among the most devoted gossip watchers, a sense that this didn't add up. The so-called receipts didn't match. The dates were off. The shadows in some of the pictures didn't make sense, as if the lighting was wrong. And in some versions of the photo, certain objects appeared and disappeared, as though they had been edited. It was messy, inconsistent, and yet the chaos only made it trend harder. Selena, meanwhile, said nothing. No post, no comment, no cryptic lyric or quote about heartbreak, nothing. And that silence became its own kind of story. The internet interpreted it as confirmation, because in a world where everyone is always talking, silence feels suspicious. But others saw it differently. They remembered how Selena had handled rumors before with calmness, with quiet strength, with that same steady refusal to play the media's game. Maybe, they thought, she was simply protecting her peace. As the hours turned into days, the story evolved. Some fans dug into Theresa's background and found she worked in the industry as a stylist. Others pointed out that she had tagged Benny in a post nearly a year earlier, but so had dozens of other collaborators. Nothing concrete ever emerged, and yet the narrative kept twisting. When someone wants to believe a scandal, they'll find a way to make every coincidence look like proof. Soon, Theresa's social media was flooded with hateful comments. People accused her of destroying a relationship they had no part in. Others defended her, saying the entire thing looked manufactured. It became a digital war zone of emotion, where facts didn't matter anymore, only how people felt about the story. And that's when the doubt began to grow louder than the rumor itself. Even the biggest celebrity news pages started walking back their coverage, quietly editing their headlines to include the words alleged and unverified. Some followers noticed that the main photo that had started it all was nowhere to be found in the original source that supposedly posted it. It was as if the evidence had vanished into thin air. Still, the damage had been done. Selena's name was once again tied to heartbreak, and Benny's reputation was questioned, all without a single confirmed detail. But then came the moment that changed everything. Benny posted a simple photo on his Instagram story. It wasn't dramatic or defensive. It wasn't a statement or apology. It was just him and Selena sitting together at home, surrounded by takeout boxes and a small candle flickering between them. She was laughing, her hand on his arm. There was warmth, there was peace, and there was absolutely no sign of tension. He didn't write a caption, didn't tag anyone, just let the image speak for itself. Within minutes, the same people who had been calling him a cheater were suddenly backtracking, saying maybe the internet had gone too far. Maybe this time the rumor really had been just that, a rumor. Still, others refused to believe it, claiming the photo could have been old, that the couple was just saving face. It didn't matter. The story had already taken on a life of its own, twisting reality until no one knew what was true anymore. What made it even more tragic was how familiar it all felt. Selena had spent years having her personal life turned into entertainment. Every smile she gave was dissected, Every pause was treated as a confession. And now, even in a moment of love and stability, she couldn't escape the echo of public suspicion. Some fans were furious at the gossip culture that had done this to her again. Others just felt exhausted, as if watching the same sad movie on repeat. The truth, though, is that no one really knew what happened, and maybe no one ever will. But that's what makes rumors so dangerous. They thrive in uncertainty. They don't need proof, only possibility. Even after Benny's quiet show of unity, there were still those who whispered, who speculated, who said things didn't quite add up. They pointed to Theresa's sudden disappearance from social media, to the cryptic quote she allegedly posted. Sometimes people create stories because the truth is too boring. No one could confirm if she really wrote it, but it spread anyway. Another piece of fuel for a fire that refused to die. And yet, over time, the noise faded. People moved on to the next celebrity scandal, the next viral heartbreak. The hashtags that had once dominated timelines were replaced by new ones, and the same accounts that had dissected Selena's every expression were now busy speculating about someone else's love life. What remained was a kind of digital ghost traces of comments, screenshots, and fragments of a story that might never have been real to begin with. For those who looked back, it became clear how fragile truth had become in the age of social media. One moment of confusion could destroy months of happiness. One blurry photo could rewrite a love story. And yet, through it all, Selena and Benny stayed together. They were seen again months later, holding hands at an event, smiling naturally, looking comfortable. There were no explanations, no public statements, no interviews about the so-called scandal, just life, continuing quietly. It was almost poetic, how the rumor had tried to break them, but only ended up proving how strong they really were. In hindsight, the whole ordeal felt like a test, not just for them, but for everyone watching. It showed how quickly people believe the worst, how easily love gets twisted into headlines, and how dangerous curiosity can be when it turns into obsession. Because, in truth, the rumor about Benny Blanco and Theresa Marie never had evidence, never had confirmation, never even had a reliable source. It was a digital illusion believable enough to trend, but fragile enough to collapse under its own weight. And maybe that's why the story still lingers in people's minds. Not because it was true, but because it reminds us how easy it is to destroy someone's peace with a few taps on a screen. For Selena and Benny, life went on. They learned, perhaps once again, that silence can be the loudest answer. And for the rest of the world, maybe the lesson was simpler. Not everything that trends deserves to be believed.